Mailbox. How is everyone? I'm Courtney Morrison, and we thank you for joining us here on the Mailbox. This happens every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. here on Love 101, the family station, with my co-host Kevin Bailey and myself, Courtney. Indeed, we had a great discussion the last 3 weeks on the topic, why are Jamaican men so angry? Are they really angry? What's hurting our men? They say hurting people hurt people. And we discussed that in the last 3 weeks. We thank Dr. Paul Smith for being our guest for 2 of those 3 weeks. This week, we still want to talk about the man, them feelings. Because trust me, sometimes we forget that men have feelings. We believe that emotions are confined to women. And the word emotional seems to somehow be coined as a feminine phrase. But it's not about anger today. It's about men and singleness. Yeah, singleness. This program is designed for men with guests who are men and whose hosts are men. And today we really want to explore that topic. So, this is the family station, family music, and we just want to tell you love. Indeed, it was a fantastic weekend. It was our Heroes Weekend. So many people were awarded national honors, badges of gallantry, orders of merit and distinction, the Order of Jamaica. It's always good to hear good news and having persons being awarded for good deeds that they have done. And so we say respect to all those who received their various honoring. It was good, some posthumously, and so I gather those who were relative who collected on behalf must have had mixed feelings about all that happened. But today, again, we want to thank our listeners, those on love101.org on radio. And we also want to say we're in YouTube and Facebook Live. Thanks for making it Love 101 and making it the station of your choice. And so, how do single men function? Do they exist? Any more single man leave? Them say you can't find a good man these days. The men want to talk about it, and the women definitely, I know, would want to hear. But before we jump into that, our guest this evening, just want to tell you a bit about him. A good friend of mine. His name is Errington Case. And Mr. Case is an ordained pastor who has served in various leadership capacities at the Fellowship Tabernacle over the past 25 years. He is married to Tanya Case, a broadcast journalist, author, and motivational speaker. Their union has produced three world changers: Justice, who also, young rapper, big guy, Noah and Chloe. He and his wife Tanya have been responsible for several ministry initiatives in Jamaica, including Mountain Movers, Children Club, Wife Material. Some ladies need to join that, the Wife Material Mentorship, and Built in His Image Men Mentorship, which he does himself. He has passionately taught on worship at the Whole Life College for several years and has recently authored the book Built in His Image. Ah, yes, Eternal by Design. Errington is an accomplished musician who has toured internationally and recorded with several Jamaican artists, including Black Uhuru, Cheryl Franklin, and Stitchy. In public service, he has served on the board of management of the Spanish Town Hospital. For the past 3 years, Errington holds a Bachelor of Science degree in and computer engineering, and has certificates in team management, strategy planning, and execution. He's leading people, decision making, and coaching from corporate learning. Harvard Business Publishing. He's a certified energy manager with the Association of Energy Engineers, Georgia, and I'm tired already. USA has over 30 years of experience in the electric utility business. I wonder what he can do to help on the Palisades airstrip where they're stealing all those lights. Mr. Errington Case, sir, good afternoon. Welcome to the mailbox. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me, man. It's great being here.
Welcome,
Blessing.
welcome, Sir Errington.
Thank you, Sir Billy.
Great to have you.
And
And
Kev, wait over the weekend, more afternoon, because I had a fantastic weekend. I
yeah,
want to say thanks to Pastor Luke Simpson of the Missionary Church. That is a men's ministry evening, afternoon, And trust me, where food is provided, I guess I'm automatically invited. So it was a good afternoon. Big up to Elder Donovan Beersing, who was also present. Friend from Youth for Christ days, eh?
Yes.
Man, the man look more like Jesus every day. All him hair long down, son, and beard, and them totally grey. Rabbi! How was yours, Kev?
Hello. No, it was great. I had a fantastic time at Transform Life with the Mighty Men on Friday night, looking at men and mental health. That was amazing. I want to big up Patrick Sims and Pastor John Claude and Jim Monroe, Horace Hamilton, Hamilton, and the brethren. Them. It was a wonderful time. Lots of men, and the conversation was really authentic. So really want to big up the men at Transform Life. Sunday I was at Hampton Green Gospel Assembly with the people them there, and it was a great time as well. And Sunday evening at Solarfield Chapel, they had I think it was Everyday Heroes. It was a kind of dramatic production, drama, poetry, music, amazing ministry with the creative talents, gifts, abilities that God has given us. It was a wonderful time. So thank God for that. So some things are happening.
Blessing.
Yeah.
Want to continue to extend congratulations to the Reverend Dr. Clara Marshall, President of the Portmore Ministers Fraternal. She was awarded a meritorious award in the area of religion for Portmore. So congratulations, Reverend Dr. Clara Marshall. Good job.
Wow. Congrats. So we're privileged and honored to have Sir Harrington Case with us this afternoon. And we're gonna have a great time. So I know I just say man and man, remember, we want to hear from you. We're live on Facebook and YouTube at Love 101 FM Jamaica. Remember, you can leave your comments via our WhatsApp line at 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. And we're going to have this conversation. Courtney.
Ladies, I don't know how many of you have been following the Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith saga, but I'm sure that will lead us into part of our discussion. Is Will Smith single? It sounds as if he has been separated for 7 years. But we don't know. Ladies, we invite you to invite all the men around you. Have you ever met a man who wasn't dating or in any form of an intimate or romantic relationship with somebody else? Have you ever met one of those? What do they call it again? Boy, entanglement is a strange thing. We welcome your participation. You can participate in the program by leaving us a message via WhatsApp or Facebook, YouTube. Females, remember, no calls or voice notes are allowed. And the man them off here today. All right, single man.
That's right.
Man. We want to give you a shout out at this point. We normally give the shout out. Earntown, we usually shout out Monday. So after 3, we're going to shout out Monday. 1, 2, 3. Monday!
Yeah.
Man
in another place.
Before we get into the meat of the matter, we have a section we entitled The Draft. I say it's direct response for the featured theme. And so we just want to ask Harrington a couple of questions just to get to know him a bit. Can men handle being completely single? God looked at him and said, it's not good for him to be alone. I mean, if God says so, who else can? Anyhow, go ahead, Harrington. This is your time to talk.
Well, we have to go back to what God says. We have to go back to what the Creator said when he designed man and he made man and placed man on the earth. And interestingly, the term that is used when it says it's not good, a lot of times we miss a lot of things in translation. And not good is not exactly what we interpret good to be in the English language. So I want to just take you on a journey understanding what was in the mind of God when he said it is not good. Right? And the word used here is a Hebrew word called tov, right? And what it actually means is that man was functioning below his capacity, and his prosperity, his success, his pleasure, his ability to be bountiful and to live an advantageous life was limited. So what God said, he was going to make a helper that is suitable, that would take him from being that not at his full capacity state to help him to become all of what God wanted him to be. You know, and so interestingly, when God finished his creation and got to the end of it and said, it is very good, that was when both male and female, man and woman, was operating together, carrying out the dominion mandate, subduing the earth, multiplying, increasing, and just functioning how God saw his image. Him being a triune God, multiple beings functioning as one, man and woman, along with the Holy Spirit, multiple beings also operating in the same image and likeness as God was operating. So I just want to lay down that context that, you know, God's opinion was really all about man fulfilling the divine mandate that God had him to be, reflecting him and functioning as a prototype of him in the earth. And to fulfill that completely, God, in his judgment, felt that, yo, the man need help. You know,
So,
and
brother,
that,
brother Case, thank you so much, and good place to start. There are some men who would say this thing get complicated because
yes,
Jesus never got married, and he was complete. He fulfilled his purpose. Persons like Paul. So are we saying that there are exceptions, that some men may be able to live single lives fully and completely in the will of God, which is good, as against not good? So how do
you know,
we?
Paul explains it in Corinthians, and I like the way Paul did it and the way Paul explained it. He actually said that it is a gift for some men to function like that. And he actually said that gift is given to some, but is not given to all. So if you are at home and you're struggling, if in your own lifestyle you are struggling as a Christian man to maintain your singleness, you know, Paul himself said it's better to marry than to burn. So yes, it's good, because he said that man is able to focus wholly and solely on the things of God. Paul did it. Jesus did it. You know, so it is not saying that you can't function like that, but in God's opinion, at the beginning, he looked at man and said, the man will need some help. You know, and so we have to take a balanced approach to it, but at the same time, we always have to go back to the beginning. Even Jesus himself, when he was questioned about several things in the Bible, he kept saying, but in the beginning, you know, he said, God permitted certain things because of whatever, but he kept going back to the beginning. So I do believe that there's value in us going back to the beginning. Look at what he said in the beginning. I remember at one stage of my life, I had the gift of singleness. And after I got saved and I was so
and
buried.
Tanya changed that for you? Tanya changed that for you?
But for a few years, really, I was my pastor's armor bearer. I couldn't see left or right anything else but the will and purpose of God. And God gave me the grace and the gift for those years to be serving in a capacity, serving my pastor, traveling around with him. And I was not distracted in any way, shape, or form. But then the season changed. The season changed, and
Sir Errington, let's stick a pin there. You have opened so many questions, and we're going to get some answers to those right after this break. You're listening to The Mailbox. I'm Courtney Morrison. Along with me is Kevin Bailey and our guest, Errington Case. We'll soon come back.
Strong man, integrity man. I am a man. I am a man. I am a man. I am a man. Yes. Strive.
Embrace the Promise Worship Edition. Night 1, Friday, October 20. Free admission worship conference with Ron Canoli and O'Neill Watson, 7 p.m. Torrington Wesleyan Holiness Church, Strasbourg. Night 2, Saturday, October 21 at 6 p.m. The paid event at Manning's High School with Dr. KJ, Ron Canoli, Sonny Badu, O'Neill Watson, and more. Pre-sold 4,000 at the gate, 5,000. VIP pre-sold 6,000 at the gate, 8,000. Yeah, Fontana and South Sea Pharmacies.
PSOJ's Crime Stop Jamaica unsolved. 32-year-old Wesley Trench, sales rep, Carreras Group Limited, was stabbed to death at 2 a.m. Saturday, February 11, 2023 in Priory St. Anne near the traffic lights. Citizens heard calls for help, but it wasn't until 5 a.m. that the body of Wesley Trench was found in a pool of blood beside his grey Hyundai Creta. Crime Stop and concerned family members are offering a total reward of $500,000 for information leading to an arrest and charge. Call Crime Stop Jamaica 311. Solving crime pays.
My kids are growing up in a rapidly changing world. They amaze me every day with their curiosity and passion for wanting to create a better future for us all. The government is investing in Jamaicans through the STEM scholarship program. Now, my kids have the opportunity to pursue studies in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to get certified as STEM professionals. And yours can too. Find out more at www.mof.gov.jm/scholarships. Sign up for a STEM scholarship today.
When you say Fosrich, you say electrical, SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say Fosrich, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say Fosrich, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Fosrich is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Fosrich.
I am a man, yes.
Welcome back. This is the Mailbox, aired every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. I am Kevin Bailey, co-host Courtney Morrison is here, and our very special guest, Errington Case. I think just before the break, you were just explaining and sharing. I want you to go right back into it, Sir Errington.
Okay, so I was mentioning as a single, well, when I got saved, I didn't come up in the church because you heard my testimony, right? So I had to shed all of my sinful ways when I got saved, right? I had to cut off some relationships I had, and God gave me the grace for maybe the first 3-4 years of just pursuing God. To all of those feelings and all of those sexual drives and all of that, I buried myself in service. I buried myself in serving the Lord. And I believe I was gifted with the grace to remain single for those years until I started getting interested in my wife today, and pursued her and eventually got married. So for seasons of my life, I can understand when Paul talks about it's a gift, because when God gives you a gift, when he gives you the grace to function a certain way, it goes beyond your normal abilities. But as Paul says, if you are burning, it is better. And if you are struggling in your sexuality, it is better for you to go ahead and pursue somebody, fulfill the purpose God have for your life, and as a commission which was given to Adam in Genesis, he needed help to fulfill his mandate. And as God says, man, and we can take a principle from that, based on those words which God used in Genesis, that it gave him an advantage, it put him in a better position. And it was not that he was not functioning any at all, because as a single man, if you go back in the same Genesis, God gave him assignments, he gave him the garden to keep, he gave him assignments. So man was functioning as a single man, and man was performing what God gave him to do as a single man. So I'm not for 1 minute saying that a single man cannot fulfill and perform the purposes of God, but he gets an advantage. He's put in an advantageous position when he gets a helpmeet that is suitable, the person that is right, the person that is equipped to help him to become all of what God wants him to be.
Sir Errington, thank you for that explanation, because that was going to be my next question. Can a single man function effectively You know, as you said, the word "tuv" means function, and function in effective. I want a definition from you for singleness, being single, and if you can, in the same breath, describe for me the difference with being alone and lonely.
All right, being single, I believe once a man gets to that age of consent where he has the ability to choose to be married, he's at that age where he can choose, I want to be married or I choose not to be married. I mean, that choice is a choice of singleness that he makes right there. And a single man could be a man who is divorced because by his choices, he has chosen that state that, look, I'm not gonna be in a relationship. I'm not gonna be in a marital bond. I'm not gonna be in a covenanted relationship. As it relates to alone and lonely, what were the two things you said? Alone and what?
Being lonely, alone, being lonely.
Right. I can recall when I was single, alone. I wasn't lonely. And this is something I recommend to a lot of single persons. Find yourself in a social setting where you can socialize with other persons. Find yourself serving in some capacity where there are other people around you. Build relationships. Have a network of friends who you can go out with and socialize with. And you won't find yourself, because as a single man, I always had friends. My truck, and Courtney can remember, was always full of guys and church sisters, and we were always going somewhere, here, there, everywhere. And there was a lot of life around me. So I never got the chance to become lonely, you know, and so a lot of men can deal, or singles in general, if you find yourself, if you can put yourself in a position where you're serving in a church, you're serving in some social group, you're participating in different ministries in the church, you have people around you, you don't have to be pursuing a relationship to fill that gap. Just those relationships that you maintain, those friendships that you maintain, takes you out of the realm of being lonely. You know, so it's just how you approach your singleness.
Thank you for that, Sir Errington. Now, there are some men who are single, yet they behave as if they are married. And then there are some who are married and they behave as if they are single. What is happening from your perspective? Share a perspective on this, Sir Errington.
Look, man, marriage is work. A marriage comes with responsibility. And I believe that we have to start a culture of preparing men and women with the correct mindset and the correct understanding towards marriage. I believe what is happening a lot of times, some people are having them cake and eating it, you know. The long and short of it is they want to be in a relationship, they want to get the benefits of a relationship, but they don't want the commitment, they don't want the work, right? And I can tell you, I've been married for 23 years. And after 23 years, I still have to work on my marriage if I don't make an effort to work on my marriage. So marriage is work. So roll up your sleeves, go into marriage knowing that, look, it's going to stretch you. You're going to have to be putting out above and beyond someone else's interest over yourself. And it requires some amount of selflessness. But guess what? It comes with the perks and the benefits the way God planned it. But what's happening in the church, man? I mean, people doing all kind of things around the corner and getting away with it. And as long as we have that happening, then persons will start feeling, so if I can get it, why do I need to go and get married? If I'm being satisfied, you know, even though it is not obeying the way God said it should be. And I believe right there now is where we have a lot of the crisis that we have in the church. And also a mindset training our men and our women to value marriage, to see marriage the way God sees it, and to look towards it. You know, I mean, I could have sunk into my past and just say, look, marriage doesn't work, because I had enough egg on me to say that. And as a matter of fact, before I got saved, I used to even say, I'm not going to get married. That's what I used to say. I never saw marriage as something to look forward to, because my memory of marriage is when I looked around me, you saw the hurt, you saw the pain, you saw the betrayal, you saw everything else which would tell you no. You know, and it is in when I started changing my mindset, retraining my mind with the word of God, understanding the purpose he has marriage for, and understanding that this was the mechanism through which he decided to manifest himself in the earth. A male and female created him in their image. He decided that, look, the instrument through which I'm going to get my will done on earth is through a married couple. You know, and when I started understand, I started changing my mindset concerning marriage, start now understanding, reading and understanding. I mean, I remember Focus on the Family. Those are the days when we had the cassette tapes. I used to have those cassette tapes in my truck piled up. And I used to just go through those tapes one by one, just training my mind, understanding dynamics of relationship, understanding how to build relationship. So an important thing that single people can do in their singleness is actually prepare and build up themselves for marriage. You know, prepare yourself in all of the different work on self-improvement, work on building yourself. And Built in His Image, which I've started, is all about how do we build up men to become that man of God that God wants him to be. And in a very intentional way, identify those attributes that need working on and work with a set of men and focus on them developing that. You know, for me, my pastor took time out as a young Christian and spent hours, not just me, I don't know if Courtney was among that group of men too, but spent hours just mentoring us, just training us. And I saw the need for mentorship among singles in terms of preparing them for life, you know, giving us life skills, helping us to understand how do we prosper as believers. And for that reason, mentorship for me is a big thing. I've been at it just looking, identifying single people who want to work with me and just working on developing them for life. You know, so that's a mouthful.
Sounding good. So men can be single. Men can be not looking for an intimate relationship, but involving themselves in many other aspects, mentorship and guiding and pursuing actual upliftment of themselves. You think men are more pressured to remain or to seek a relationship than to remain single than all women are?
Men are more
or is
pressured.
it on the same level? Who is more pressured, men or women?
You know, expectations come from both sides. Would I say men are more pressured? I think women are more receptive to marriage and relationships than men. I believe we have a cultural legacy of our men. Historically, we were not. It was set into motion from way back when we were brought from Africa to come and create more slaves, and you know, and that culturally has come down where in our culture, you know, the man who has a lot of women is always seen as like a hero, you know, and in some communities, if a man is a one burner, them look down on him as if to say, yo, something wrong with you. You know, man must, you even know the song, man must have enough girl in a bungle. You know, so it's cultural in our culture that men would have multiple relationships and stuff like that. So there's some pressure on the men not to get involved because it's not seen as cool. It's not seen as acceptable as a cultural norm if a man decides to, look, I'm going to take this Paul walk, and before you know it, people start putting labels on him. You understand me? So there is that pressure. On the other side, there's a pressure because I have a lot of females around me because my wife does wife material mentorship and she's mentoring women, and I know their expectations. I see what they go through. And at the same time, there's a pressure on the women as they mature in age. People start looking at them and say, well, you're not going to get married, you're not going to have no pitney. And in their minds, they're also thinking, my biological clock is ticking. I'm getting to that age where science has told me that, look, childbearing will be difficult. So there are all these pressures on
various angles. So Errington, we're up on another break.
Yeah,
it's 6 p.m. right here on in the studios of Love 101 FM. We're going to take a break. This is the Mailbox. Courtney and Kevin here, along with Ayrton Case. Soon come.
Yes.
Get ready for a melodic morning inside Love in the Morning with your host, Jacal Dyer, this Thursday, October 19th. Listen throughout the show for tips on how to become the best version of who you are in the future, becoming you. Grab your cup of coffee and start the day right with Morning Coffee Pick-Me-Up Devotional at 6 a.m. Then at 7 a.m., we bring you the Morning Watch with intriguing and thought-provoking discussions. 8:40 a.m., we take it up a notch inside How Would You React with scenarios and situations that make you stop and wonder, what would I do? 9:30 a.m. is Voice of Power brought to you by the Power of Faith Ministries. Stick and stay with us this Take Me Back Thursday inside Love in the Morning, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the family station. Love is Do you have a heart condition? Your care should be in the hands of our experienced cardiovascular team at Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. We're one of the leading heart centers for angiogram, stenting, pacemakers, EP studies, and ablation therapy. PICJ has the expertise and latest technology to treat all your heart needs. Call 876-995-7425 or email info@pic-jm.com for appointments. PICJ, your partners for life.
Clearing personal non-commercial shipments at the port? Avoid the wait. Request a contactless clearance through your agent today. It's more efficient. It's secure. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
6:02 p.m. Welcome back to the program, The Mailbox. Ambassador Courtney Morrison, along with Kevin Bailey and Ayrton Case here. We're talking about the single man. Does a single man really exist? Can a man remain single? Can he pursue singleness as a lifestyle? Is it something that he can do? It's a big question. Can you remain monogamous in the first place? We have so many questions. Kevin, you look like you're burning with a question. Go ahead, sir. Fire!
I want Sir Ayrton to comment on this. Jody Ann Simpson says, good evening, Courtney and Kevin. Yes, the single men are here because I find one. The only thing is they are afraid of commitment and don't want to commit. They are running and hiding from commitment. Sir Ayrton, please comment on what our friend Jody Ann has said.
Could you repeat the question? You just broke up in the translation.
So she says, good evening, Courtney and Kevin. Yes, the single men are here because I find one. The only thing is they are afraid of commitment and don't want to commit. They are running and hiding from commitment.
Yeah, and I believe, again, there are some things which we have to train. I believe the church is missing out in terms of preparing men for life in general, not just marriage, but in life in general. And I believe some more time has to be spent when a man sees a value or sees a value in getting married or sees a value in a relationship, then his outlook will change. You know, I mean, right now, a lot of men think of it as a trap. And in some instances, I believe some of the men too, in terms of the ratio of men to women in the church, a lot of men maybe just looking and seeing so many options and their decision-making ability is compromised. They can't make a decision. So they have all of these options available to them and they don't see the value in committing to one. And that's a real cool fact. So there has to be a mindset change. So she's right. A lot of men don't commit easily. And that comes out of how they are mentored, how they are trained, how they are brought up, how do they perceive marriage. Because I said before, when I just got saved, I came into the kingdom saying to myself, I'm not going to get married because it was modeled before me. It wasn't something that I look forward to. It wasn't something that was presented as something attractive to me. And I believe I speak for a lot of Jamaican men. You know, what you see in marriages or what is taught to you, you don't really look forward to it because you see the hurt I mentioned before, you see the pain, and and you just figure, you know, I can do without that, if that's the angle you're coming from. Or you may even be promiscuous in a way and figure that, boy, look, I'm going to kill all of the options I have right now by settling down with one person. So you know what? You better just stay aloof. You know, there are many reasons behind why, but I believe first it comes with changing the mindset of our men. We have to start training our men, let our men understand that, look, for you to fulfill your mandate on earth at a greater capacity, not that you can't fulfill it as a single man, but if you are struggling sexually, as Paul said, if you're burning, and if you getting married would really be a step in the right direction of fulfilling God's will and purpose for your life. You know, so we have to change how we think and how we perceive marriage. And so, yes, men don't commit easy. Jamaican men, they don't commit easy to relationships. And we have to be out there with a message that, look, trumpeting, look, marriage is God's idea. It is really God's plan. And you won't be losing out on pleasures. That's another fallacy which men have out there, you know. So, boy, you know, we were made for pleasures. I'll go back to Genesis and look at what God did in the garden. And before there was even sin, it said God made everything for man's pleasure, to please man, that were things that were pleasing to his eyes. So in God's idea, he had our pleasure at his heart. The word of God even said, in his presence there's fullness of joy, and at his right hand there are pleasures evermore. In his plan is a plan for you to have pleasures, but he has a predefined way which he had put in place, the covenant of marriage, the one flesh union, in which he said, look, this is a medium through which you should express and you should gain all of that pleasure. So we have to be just go out there, be teaching our men, let them understand, say, look, it's not the end of the world if you commit to one woman. I mean, what you are waiting for in a non-committed relationship, and you are stealing love on the side, if you can use that word, and stealing and doing things which are contrary to the word of God. You could be living that life 24/7 because that was God's idea for you. That was God's plan for you in the covenant of marriage. So we have to start changing the mindset, and even as leaders too, we have to demonstrate by example in our marriages, you know, and be real. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are issues, you know, but guess what? The joy that you get when you're married to the right person, I'm sure Pastor Courtney can even testify to that. You know, nothing compares to it. What up Motor Road, and I was out the road. So what up Motor Road don't compare to what happens on this side of Jordan.
Thank you, Pastor Errington. You know, you started to speak a bit to mentorship. How important is this for our men in this regard of singleness? You're talking about a change of mindset, re-socializing, and really redirecting our mental capacities in how we think about relationships. How important would mentorship be? Would it help? Does the church have a program? Are they doing enough? Tell me.
It's extremely important. I tell you, it's extremely important. I can't imagine the man I would be today without a program called TAMP, which was a program which was in place at a particular season in my life, where my pastor, he spent nights up to 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, every Friday night, with a bunch of men, just imparting to them. I recall even he took a bunch of us, maybe about 30 of us, to the Bahamas, to Miles Monroe Church, and we sat under the teaching of Dr. Miles Monroe for several days, just building up ourselves as men, just being poured into. And when I look around now, there are a lot of leaders, even in this nation, who came out of that program. I don't want to call names, but there were men who were not even certain of themselves, not even understanding how to realize their full potential. But just because a man who was ahead of them took the time to stop, to just lay down certain things, lay down certain foundation stones in his building, and allow him now the opportunity to grow and mature. These men have become leaders in our nation. You know, so I would say it's extremely important. I have 2 sons. I have one who is an 18-year-old. I have one who is a 21-year-old. And look, man, I know the pressure that they come under. I know what they go through out there, you know. And it is in the mentorship that you give them the steel, the backbone to go and face life and become all of what God has placed them on this earth to become. So mentorship for me is very, very important. And it takes time. It is not one of those glorious ministries, you know. I mean, it's a very private activity, and the accountability and the follow-up, and you're on the phone, and it is not one of those glamorous things to do. But trust me, man, the satisfaction I get when I look back and I see the men who I have mentored. I mean, last year I'm watching marriages flourish, you know, several marriages coming to being because of persons my wife and myself have mentored, and their mindsets have changed. Where would they be now? And we need families in the kingdom, in the Muslim community, in all of these other communities. Families are, they take it so serious that they plan marriages for teens. Once they get to a certain age, marriage is planned. They execute marriages. They are trained. They know they have a particular value on family. As a body of Christ, we have to start reinstalling those values in our young adults and in our teens, and where people look forward to being married. We don't want to be in the realm where they are fixing marriages for people and pushing them out into marriages. But there's a value that is placed on it, and it comes through training, it comes through mentorship, it comes through transforming the minds of our youths and our singles. And so I really believe that there are some gaps there, and we have to now focus and intentionally deposit these seeds and train the minds of our youths and our teens and our young adults, so that they see it as something that they can get to, and it's something that they look to, something that they aspire to. And yes, we have the failing marriages around as examples, which that's a hard part of it.
Sure. So Eridan, it's something I wanted you to address, and I know it's like dual, because I want you to share breaking down what are some of the areas men who are listening who want to do mentorship with the men and boys to men in their church. What would you say are important areas to be covered in the mentorship program? Yeah, share a little bit about that.
So there are for me, I've identified several, maybe 5 core areas that I zero in and I focus on and I work on with the men. First and foremost, I work on his spiritual life, right? I work on his relationship with God. Most of our men, sadly, are not engaged in worship, are not engaged in a personal relationship with God. Yeah, they go to church and they carry out certain functions and they do certain things, but there's no intimacy, there's no relationship with God. And one of the things I work with the men is just developing that, your spiritual life, working on how do I as a single man develop a worship life? How do I as a single man spend time in the word? How do I as a single man spend time in prayer? How do I as a single man build up myself spiritually? You know, and things which are seen as feminine are for the women, you know, we have to understand what was David's experience as a worshiper, and how did he benefit as a man, as a worshiper, as somebody who had worship at his heart? How was that critical to his own growth and development? So we focus on your spiritual life. We work on getting them into a rhythm of having a steady devotional life, a steady prayer life, you know, and this is personal now, and just really growing and positioning them to grow spiritually. But also focus on social development, which is all of the social skill sets. How do you approach a woman? You know, how do you talk to your parents? How do you talk to your boss? How do you relate to your peers? You know, and zeroing on social skills, which again, if you ask a lot of the women, they will say it's lacking. The first couple of words a man said to them, and they are like, ouch, you know. You know, so how do we groom our men, you know, outside of, you know, just being the typical Jamaican man? Yo, nice girl, you know. You know, how do we groom him in terms of his communication skills? And we're
Sorry,
going
Arrington, I'm just going to ask you to continue after this break. We're up on our final break. So stick up in right there. Yo. Anyway, I'm Pastor Courtney Marsh. We'll come right back after these messages. This is the mailbox.
Follow Grace Sardine, that's a flavor. Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that's a the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody sell it. You all of them nice. Pass the part, make push it.
Grace Sardines, follow the better flavor.
Embrace the Promise Worship Edition, Night 1, Friday, October 20. Free admission worship conference with Ron Canoli and O'Neill Watson, 7 p.m. Torrington Wesleyan Holiness Church, Strathbogie. Night 2, Saturday, October 21 at 6 p.m. The paid event at Mannings High School with Dr. KJ, Ron Canoli, Sonny Badu, O'Neill Watson, and more. Pre-sold 4,000 at the gate, 5,000. VIP pre-sold 6,000 at the gate, 8,000. Now, Fontana and South Sea Pharmacies.
Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that's a the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody
Grace
sell it.
Sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is
16 minutes past the 06, and it is the mailbox. And I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison along with Kevin Bailey, and our guest is Mr. Arrington Case. He was zeroing in on 5 different areas that he focused on with our young men to boys or boys to men when it comes on to mentorship. He was talking about how to approach a woman. You may continue, Sir Case.
Yeah, another thing which we're zeroing on is his professional development. And one of the things which I make sure that the men who are in the mentorship program now lead with is what I call a personal development plan. And every man has to distill all of his thoughts, understand what is a vision for my life. Where do I see myself going? Where do I see myself if there were no limits to me becoming all of what God made me to be? And then start articulating what are the steps that will take me there. And it's basically working out Habakkuk 2:2, where for his personal life, he now has to write the vision for his life, make it plain. And not just make it plain for himself. When he speaks to a young lady, when he's get engaged in a relationship, he should have a clear vision for his life, that lady can look at those, at what he has articulated and say, yes, this is a man I am willing to stand behind. This is a man, he's going where I am going. And I say to them, look, you should not be talking to any woman unless you know where you are going. Because as a leader, you'll be leading a family, you'll be leading a wife, you'll be leading them. And how can you lead if you don't know where you're going? You know, so a personal vision, articulating that vision. So that is an interactive session that takes a while, emailing back and forth, sharing ideas, helping them to document that, helping them to distill that until they get to a place. And then know, what are the steps to get there? Do I need to go back to school? What do I need to do? What help do I need to get? What do I need to do so that I can build myself up to become all of that which God created me to be? I look at the man and his money. And that's so key, because not understanding that money is more than just something that you spend, and it actually has spiritual implications to your life, and to whether you are living under a curse or you're living under a blessing. You know, so we spend time looking at the man and his money, financial things, looking at savings, tithing, you know, all the things that most men, and even myself in my early Christian walk, I wasn't keen on tithing. And especially when certain persons went on the stage and was trying, you felt like somebody was trying to shake all of the money out of your pocket. But when you understood the spiritual value and the spiritual implications it has concerning your life, my mindset changed to, look, no, I need to walk in the blessing. I need to shift my life from walking under a curse. You know, so we spend time teaching, instilling those values in men. And I think the other area I mentioned, how many areas I mentioned so far? I think I covered the 5. I think I did.
You have here spiritual development,
yes,
you have
social
skills, you have professional, and you have man and his money.
Okay, I deal with also relationships came under the social. Yeah,
okay.
But we deal with relationships as a separate relationships, you know,
yeah,
not just in a in a man-woman relationship, but relationships in general, relationships on the job,
Interpersonal
relationships in the family, just how, dealing with emotional intelligence. How do I relate to people? How do I manage my own expectations of people? That kind of thing. So we spend some time looking at that too. But at the end of the day, we're
Excellent.
looking at building up the man so that the man can now look like the man. So we can really say, man there, right? It's not just statement that you make, but you're actually now representing a prototype of God in the earth. And I believe that is where we need to start pitching that vision for our men and say, look, you are, I don't want to use the word mini God because some people will take it out of context, but look, you were made to reflect him. You were made to operate, to function like him in the earth. And when a man is falling short of that, we have to have the systems in place to say, yo, look, man, you tell the man who he is and show him, give him a vision of who he should be, and let him have something that he aspires to and he works towards.
Thank you, Arrington. There's a little segment we have this evening called Junk Mail. We haven't done this area in quite some time, but the question is quite interesting. Want your perspective on this one. It says, men in pursuit of women with no intention of commitment, yea or nay. I'm not sure if it is really saying the man has no intention of commitment, nor the woman. Because sometimes the woman have no intention for commit either, You just want, this might sound a little bit, just enjoying the gifts they receive, whether monetary or otherwise. Your perspective, yes or no?
I mean, men with no intention to, it's a fact out there. I won't say it's not a reality out there, that there are men out there with no, I believe maybe it is not really no intention to commit, but he has not been mentored to understand and value and have the right mindset and perspective. So it is really, we need to educate the men, change their perception. I believe once we do that, and the spiritual transformation, we can't ignore that is massive, because we know curses are at work in men and creating all kind of, scenarios, which is not really God's desire for us as men, but I believe that there is a problem with men and committing and men in relationships and getting to that point where they feel like it's going to become something which I don't want, so I back out of the relationship. And so that has to do with mindset. It has to do with the way they think. And they have to now start seeing that, look, I'm actually gaining more than I'm losing. And it's just a human reaction. If you are trained to think that you're about to lose something, you're going back off and you're going to run away. And so we have to get into the mindset of our men and start having them have the correct value system as it relates to relationship and marriage, seeing it as something that is an asset to me and not a liability, and so the work is out there for us as pastors, for both the men and the women, because I wouldn't just put it on men. Women also too have to be trained, have to be mentored, have to understand what plans God have for them and align themselves to God's way of doing things. The world is out there defining marriages. The world is out there defining relationships. The world is out there, and there is God's blueprint, there is God's standards, and as people in the body of Christ, we now have to start defining and showing people, say, look, this is the plumb line, this is where we need to align ourselves to. This is what we need to do to align to the will and purposes of God and to maximize all the plans he has for us in this life. And I mentioned the word plumb line because I'm giving a plug for a conference that my wife and I will be having on November 4th.
It's a singles conference, eh?
Singles conference, right?
Do men attend singles conferences?
Boy, I'm trying to pull out the men, because the word on the street is only women turn up to singles conference. So I'm on a campaign now to get the men out, don't feel threatened. Come out. If you want to see yourself, if you want to see the best version of yourself, and we're not trying to force people into marriage. What we want to do is to give you what God's vision is for you as a single man as a single woman so that you can maximize your potential and you can become all of what God placed you on the earth to become. So what we want to do is to give you a roadmap, to give you some of the key steps that you have to take if you want to become all of what God called you to be in the earth.
Very, very important. Great to know you're doing this, because we lack opportunity for men and women to focus on how best they can fulfill God's purpose. In looking forward to marriage, some men are hurting, maybe past experiences they have had, disappointment, discouragement, deep hurt by women, sometimes, from early childhood as well. How do we help those men? Is there a place for the healing so that they can be whole? Share a little bit about that, Sir Harrington.
You know what the danger is about it? Is when women hurt, women talk. They'll go on the phone and they'll talk to somebody, they'll cry on somebody's shoulder, and the healing process starts by them just verbalizing the hurt that they go through. But most men like myself, when you get hurt, you don't talk much, you don't say anything. It's all bottled up inside, and sometimes we are hurt so deep that we don't even know we are hurt, and we're functioning from our hurt. We're responding to people from our position of hurt. We're developing mindsets based on our past hurts, and it takes a session more like a mentorship or a counseling session where you are walk through that whole process of understanding how your past traumas have impacted you and caused you to have some of the defects that you have. It will also require deliverance in most cases, because out of most of those traumas, strongholds are developed in our lives where it's either we get fear, that's spiritual in its root, that's a spiritual stronghold, anxiety, all type of negative stuff develop because we have past hurts, we have past wounds, and they are not dealt with. So it's personal. Yes, we have open sessions where people talk, but it gets down when it gets down to real deliverance, it has to be one-on-one. It has to be a place where somebody is confident in sharing some of their past experiences. Most of us men, we go through some stuff, we don't even talk, we learn as both men growing up, say man no fi cry and man no this and man no that, and we kill ourselves emotionally, and our hearts become hardened and we become cold and callous. And when we go into relationships, with the same cold and callousness, and it creates all type of other issues within the relationship and within marriages, So it is important that the single man goes through that process of healing, that process of dealing with the past traumas and understanding how it has impacted him, and go through spiritual deliverance to deal with some of the strongholds that the enemy has set up in his mind. High thinking that is exalting itself above what God's word says about him. So that is work, that is going into the trenches, and that is dealing with one-on-one sessions. That is work, but that is what is required.
When is the conference, Harrington? Because we have men who need help, and they need to know that singles conference is not for women alone.
Yeah, it's
and
on
how
November
do people get in
4th.
touch with you? Because we're closing now.
It's on November 4 at the Jamaica Conference Center, and it is from 8:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. And tickets are available on Eventbrite. They can go on there and they can find the tickets. It's quite affordable.
Any phone number? Any contact number?
Yes, you can contact 876-288-4069. 876-288-4069. If you want to get more information about the conference. And we have a couple of dynamic speakers. We have Nigel and Nikki Holness. That's Pastor Nigel and Nikki Holness. We have Pastor Kavan Allen. We have
all right. We're going to have to stop right here. Time has run out on us. We apologize for that. And indeed, we just want to say thanks to you for being here with us. Thanks to Timoy Butler for technical support, and indeed our producer Trishan Bryan for doing such a fantastic job. We end the show with this quote. being single is pretty good. It's a nice sense of irresponsibility. Michael Douglas said that. Kevin.
This was the program designed for men with guests for men. Thanks again, Sir Renton Case. Really appreciate your contribution.
Thank you very much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Catch you next week, same place, same time, 5:30 p.m. right here on the Mailbox. Indeed, is there such a real thing as a single man? Part 2. We should have that next week, Monday.
Monday,
Strong man.